Dear friends, I'm Cantor Sarah Sager from Anshe Chesed Fairmont Temple. We gather this afternoon to remember and to celebrate the life of one who filled our world with her love, her goodness, her spirit, and her outstanding example. In humility and gratitude, we turn to the wisdom of our tradition for comfort, for guidance, and for understanding. Throughout the centuries, whenever our people felt lost, confused, grief-stricken, adrift, they would speak in words of Psalms. They would quote the words of Psalms, especially Psalm 121, as they would say, I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and of earth. Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai osei shamayim v'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai osei shamayim v'aretz. Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Adonai, what are we? That you have regard for us. What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are as a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, Return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright. They shall have peace. For those of you for whom the 23rd Psalm is familiar, I invite you to join with me in its recitation. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. When I die, remember me with a smile and laughter. If thoughts of me provoke no love, only sadness and tears, I ask that I be soon forgotten. Give what's left of me away to children and old ones who wait to die. And if you must cry, cry for your brother or sister who walks in grief beside you. And when you need me, Put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved or helped in some special way. And if you cannot give me away, let me live in your eyes for a while, as well as in your mind. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. We have already begun to learn that in the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember Polly. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember Polly. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, in the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, in the beginning of the year, and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. My dear Ed and Joy, Debbie and Frank, dear grandchildren, Henry, dear family, friends. Just 2 days ago, on Tuesday night and Wednesday, occurred a very minor holiday in the Jewish calendar that most Jews have never heard of. It is called Tu B'Av, meaning literally the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Av. Tu B'Av. Anybody ever heard of it? One, okay. We have a shill in the group. It is considered one of the most joyous days in the Jewish calendar, almost as an antidote to Tisha B'Av, which occurred 6 days earlier and is one of the saddest days in the year, as it commemorates the destruction of both ancient temples in Jerusalem and numerous other days of disaster and devastation for the Jewish people throughout history. Tisha B'Av means the 9th of the month of Av, Tu B'Av being the 15th day. In powerful contrast, Tu B'Av is the Jewish holiday of love. It seems to have originated as a day to mark the beginning of the grape harvest, but over time, it became a joyous day associated with courtship and weddings. Today, in the state of Israel, it is considered a kind of Valentine's Day, on which flowers and cards are exchanged. It is considered an auspicious day on which to propose marriage or to conduct a wedding. It is a day on which music and dance festivals are typically held to celebrate the Jewish Day of Love. I find it intriguingly meaningful that between the day of Polly's last breath and this day of our farewell to her, the Jewish calendar uplifted the theme of love. The very first and last words Ed and Debbie used to describe their mother is loving and loved. She led with her heart and was greatly loved in return. She was all about family, had a gift for friendship, and loved the hundreds of children who were entrusted to her for their very first classroom learning experiences. Polly, who legally changed her given name of Eileen to Polly, grew up in Cleveland Heights in the close-knit, loving family created by Sam and Rose Delson, with nearby grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. Polly was the eldest, as Sister Sandy and then Brother Jerry arrived to complete their immediate family. Polly's razor focus on family was encoded in her DNA. The family was the foundation of her life. Her grandmother Finkelstein lived with them as Sam and Rose began their life together. As Sam went into the wholesale candy business, the B&B Candy Company, and the two of them began to raise their family. Polly vividly remembered regular gatherings for Shabbat and all of the Jewish holidays in their conservative, kosher home, or wherever the grandparents were, until Polly's generation took over and rotated holidays and celebrations among Polly and Aaron's, Sandy and Dave Diamond's, and Jerry and Sheila's homes, with cousins Barb, Mary, Rana Zichronah Livracha, and Eric, as well as Aaron's sister, Shirley and Marv Rukins, with cousins Judy and Michael. It was a warm, caring, comforting, and stable environment in which to grow up. The only difficulty Polly ever described was her poor eyesight. Love may be blind, but other children and even schools are not. She was in special classes for what seems to have been defined as a disability, and with her thick glasses, she never felt as cute or attractive as the other girls. In later years, when she was finally able to wear contact lenses, she was not only greatly relieved, she was always beautifully dressed and coiffed, with her makeup and nails done, or she wouldn't venture out into public. But then, Polly seemed to exemplify refinement and good taste. She was a proud grandmother. She was a proud grandmother, but she was also a proud graduate of Cleveland Heights High, and then went off to Ohio State. 2 years later, she returned to Cleveland and worked while Aaron, having returned from the service, completed his medical training. When Ed and Debbie were teenagers, Polly went back to school and proudly earned her Bachelor of Science degree in early childhood education. She became the head teacher at the Church of the Covenant, where she taught for 17 years. She then went on to teach at the Laurel School, where she became lead teacher and taught for another 10 years until she retired in 2003 at the remarkable age of 75, especially for a preschool teacher. Her longevity speaks not only to her excellence, professionalism, and high standards of accomplishment for herself. It speaks as well of her creativity, her resourcefulness, her ability to be innovative, progressive, and continuously dynamic. It also speaks to her energy and vitality, her physical stamina, and indefatigability. More than anything, it speaks to her love of the children and her sense of both mission and responsibility. She understood that the positive experiences that she could create in the students' earliest years could influence them for the rest of their lives. She responded to that challenge with her whole mind and heart, and when she perceived a need, she set about filling it. She realized that there were no books or guides that could help parents and children deal with the very difficult topic of death. So in 1980, using her own knowledge of and experience with young children, she developed a book which would deal honestly with the issue of death. In 1981, she published Let's Remember Corky. It tells the story of a family dog who is loved as a good friend. Corky is old, however, and one day the children find him dead in his favorite place, under the piano. The parents, ably played in the photographs that illustrate the book by Ed and Debbie. And if I'm not mistaken, there is a star appearance by Aaron as the veterinarian. Did I get that right? Yes. Not exactly his area of expertise, but he looked very much like a serious doctor. At any rate, the parents explain to their children exactly what will happen to Corky and have them help bury him. The book also shows the parents and children feeling sad about Corky's death. Let's Remember Corky was well reviewed for its handling of death by the Journal of the American Psychoanalytic Association in 1983 and the Journal of the National Association for the Education of Young Children in 1981. Polly and Aaron was proud of her contribution to the field of early childhood education, which was no more remarkable than the contribution she made every day in the classroom. Both were labors of love, as was her life at home. Polly was an entirely loving, caring, supportive, present, and sometimes diplomatic wife and mother. She was there for her children in every possible way, and devoted homemaker that she was, knew that much of family life happens around meals. And she was a terrific cook who loved to experiment with new recipes and was always doing so. She was a gracious and generous hostess who loved to cook for family gatherings, and despite her adventurous spirit when it came to cooking, a spirit that brought the pesto provolone roll into the family, she was perfectly comfortable and expert in traditional foods for holiday and life cycle celebrations as well. Hanukkah was always at Polly's because she loved to make the latkes. Her latkes, however, came with a side of dreidels, as the artistic party planner in her loved to create a real celebration with games, entertainment, and something special for everyone. No one will ever forget the challahs she baked for every single table of guests at Lydia, Benjamin, and Matthew's weddings. Cooking and baking were labors of love and sources of joy for Polly, as was singing throughout her years in school with the guitar, which she learned for her teaching, and for many years with the Belvoir Singers under the direction of Lenore Bletcher. Polly was also a talented knitter who loved knitting blankets at the Beechwood Library with dear friend Iris November. She arranged the flowers painstakingly raised by Aaron in their garden on Rockland Road, and then for the building when they moved to the Fairmount. Polly especially enjoyed the sociability of the garden club. She adored the mage groups in which she played, even during this last year at the Wiles, when they could gather enough players. Polly participated in all of the Wiles activities, and in a very short time, she was only there for a year, made some wonderful, very loving friends, which is not surprising for a woman who led with her heart. That heart burst with pride when it came to her children. She was proud of Ed's career path and excellence as an otolaryngologist, proud of Debbie's professionalism and expertise in running the office at the Corrective Eye Center. She was delighted when they started families of their own, when Ed and Pam welcomed Lydia and Olivia, when Debbie and Frank brought Benjamin and then the twins, Zachary and Matthew, into this world. Polly adored her grandchildren, and rumor has it, they adored her right back. She was always available for expert childcare and filling in for busy parents. As they grew, she was present at sports events, concerts, shows, productions, programs, and assemblies. She knew how fortunate she was to witness their growing up and their development into professionals in their chosen fields of work and endeavor. She also loved being at their weddings, where in addition to the challahs, she always spoke with grace, with humor, sometimes with an original poem or a song parody, and she was always memorable as she embraced Tony and Teresa. Most recently, she had the great joy of meeting Henry Francis, who, according to our tradition, allowed her to glimpse her posterity. She also embraced joy when she came into Ed's life with her brood of Jeremy, Joshua, Joey, Jason, and Jordan. Did I leave anybody out? Okay. She led with her heart. They were both counselors at Park Day Camp when they started dating. At the end of the summer, however, she went to college and he resumed his medical studies at Case. But something started that summer, perhaps even on Tu B'Av, that culminated on June 23rd, 1951, when Dr. Aaron Fine and Polly Delson were married. For 60-plus years, they shared a life of family, friends, faith, and adventure. They traveled the world and created a world at home. Everyone who knew them knew that Polly was the very special center of that world, sustaining her family, managing her husband, and providing an environment of loving concern, encouragement, compassion, and security, with food as the balm that soothed all. Polly and Aaron enjoyed an active, engaging social life with a circle of friends they referred to as the club, many of whom they met at Fairmount Temple. They would gather regularly for cards and dinner, socializing and sharing. Polly and Aaron also played golf, but because of Aaron's competitiveness, Polly would kiss him at the beginning of the game because she knew that by the end they wouldn't be speaking to each other. Aaron, like Polly, could be remarkably kind and generous, giving and caring, but he could also be difficult. Polly was expert at navigating the highs and lows of their relationship, as she led always with her heart. It was comforting to watch her in the aftermath of his passing 12 years ago. She missed him, but she did not retreat or turn inward. On the contrary, she seemed to blossom into herself, her own strength, resiliency, and agency. She continued to pursue all of her activities as she regularly played Maj, knitted, cooked for her family, and for our caring community at Temple. She wrote beautiful notes in her distinctive hand, sometimes thank yous, and sometimes to express her disappointment in or opposition to a product, a policy, a badly delivered or damaged item. She had spunk and she had standards and beautiful penmanship in which to express herself. I remember the beautiful, thoughtful notes I would receive from her, always handwritten and heartfelt. She never forgot a birthday or an anniversary and sent cards for every special occasion, sometimes edited with an adjustment of words or the overlay of a picture to make the card just right for her purpose and the person receiving it. She and Debbie spoke twice a day, every day. They were true best friends. As Debbie expressed, the profound loss that we all feel is somewhat assuaged by the knowledge that she isn't struggling anymore. It seemed as if she might go on and on. Her mind was good, her vitality seemingly undiminished, but her fall several months ago ultimately changed everything. And she finally decided this was not the life she wanted to live. In her book, Let's Remember Corky, in the aftermath of the dog's death, the narrator, a young boy named Skippy, whose younger sister is Debbie, describes his feelings in straightforward, honest terms, as he says, "I know I will miss Corky very much. After burying him, We walked home slowly, feeling very sad. We missed our friend. I felt sad and lonely. I wished she was still here, but she was not. Mommy said, "Skippy, I know we are going to miss Corky and think about her for a long, long time." That night, I asked Mommy if we could talk about Corky. We looked at her picture and talked about all the good times we had with her. When Mommy talked to me about Corky, it helped me feel better. I'm so glad she was my dog. She was so good and so special. Zichronah livracha. May the memory of Polly Fine, our gracious, beautiful, generous, and spirited mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, aunt, cousin, and dear friend, who led with her heart and loved each and every one of us with all of her heart. May her memory be for blessing. And let us say, Amen. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be. To be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me. Your laugh once lifted me. Your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. I call now on granddaughter Lydia, who will share some thoughts and reminiscences on behalf of the grandchildren.
First off, I think Grandma would have prepared a song. I did not have enough lead time to do that, so. On Grandma's 95th birthday in June, she presented the family with a document titled 95 Interesting Years. It was a brief summary of her long life. She was an avid writer and documenter. When she moved recently, I found a stack of papers dating back to 1966. The papers contained summaries of the many get-togethers that she'd thrown over the years. Together, they created a small history of the family as told through dinner parties. The full menu was always listed. For example, Skippy's bar mitzvah, October 6, 1966, made 670 egg rolls, had 100 left. It's true. There's a long list of those. There's a lot left. For smaller parties, the guests in attendance are always included. December 25th, 2007, Hanukkah on Christmas. Fines and Weisses plus Teresa, Matthew's friend. They got married in 2020. And sometimes other idiosyncratic details. December 25th, 2009, power out until 5:30 p.m. We never would have remembered. Her spirit can be found in these lists. They show her love of entertaining and, above all, gathering people together. I can picture her sitting after the guests have went home with a cup of tea, a smile on her face, writing these pages out, a record of a social history over the years. When I think of her, food is central. It was the exchange of love often served with a song. She was constantly singing, offering a subtle background track to every meal. For my wedding, Grandma agreed to make 17 challahs. She was happy to be the center of the dinner table, but did not like to be the center of attention. When it was time to bless the bread, we had to beg her to take the microphone and lead the Hamotzi prayer. She reluctantly agreed, but after a strong start, veered off course and ended up accidentally blessing Hanukkah instead. Suddenly, it was Hanukkah in August. But with Grandma, the spirit of the celebration always mattered much more than the calendar day. Mere minutes after her Hanukkah flub, she was again at the mic. this time to do a surprise show-stopping rendition of Hello Dolly, rewritten and retitled to be Hello Polly. It introduced her as the family baker, the challah maker, I'm not going to sing it, while simultaneously welcoming the crowd to the celebration. Her previous hesitancy was gone. She confidently belted out the lyrics and honestly stole the show. To this day, my friends still talk about it. The last day I spent with Grandma was the day after her 95th birthday. Olive and I were there catching up after birthday festivities. We were joined by her pen pal Chandra's family, her son Lalith, daughter-in-law Samantha, and granddaughter Natalia. The two had met 71 years earlier, and somehow on that day we were continuing the story. We shared 2 cakes, cookies, tea, and lemonade. She lived for celebrations like this, people's orbits overlapping even for a moment. Excuse me. There is never enough time with the people that we love. I think that's a fact of life. There will never be enough conversations. Sorry. Or crowded lunch tables, or family gatherings, or friendly phone calls. Come on, for Grandma. All we can do is live in the moment and enjoy the good memories while we have them. We can enjoy the song being hummed while the tea kettle boils, savor the challah, accept the leftovers, and call and say hello. Going through some of her writings recently, I found a piece called Dealing with Death from 2018, which is 5 years ago. It reads this. I know that death is a part of life, and at age 90, I am witnessing this over and over again. Many do not reach the plateau that I have obtained. I am dealing with life and death much more realistically and in a positive way. I have been a member of the Cleveland Jewish Genealogy Group for 25 years, and I want to pass on to my family the wealth of information I have gained so that death does not close off our past, but bring it to life. Her interest in genealogy always seemed like a hobby, but it was as much about the future as it was about the past, collecting the original stories and finding ways to create her own. I hope we can all continue to share her stories, record our own, and honor a bit of her spirit in the years to come. On this day in August, I once again wish you happy Hanukkah.
Thank you for that wonderfully evocative memory of her, remembrance of her. Oh God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort, and the sorrow-laden for consolation. Oh God, we see life as through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures, and the soul endures as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and glory. Please rise. El male rachamim shochen bamromim ametzei menucha nechona תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים וטהורים, כזרע רקיע מזהירים, את נשמת החברה שלנו, שלך לעולמה. בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים. חיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה וינוח בשלום על משכבה. ונאמר Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Polly Delson Fine, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bonds of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
I could ask any of those who are going to act as pallbearers would step forward at this time. And I'll step off to the side here for a moment. Friends, I'm going to ask you to step directly to your cards, please. You can exit to the front or rear of the chapel as you do. So we'll put them in your cards. Now we're going to empty the water. Yeah, hold it. Oh, perfect. Okay. Which card do you want? They're all going to go in the white violet.